What's up, Blue Room family? I bless this mic because I got something to say. I rock these headphones because I'm listening twice as much as I talk. Yes, this is the idea shift, and I'm going to chop it up today about something that I think is really important to men. I told y'all I was going to do a series on men and intimacy because I think it's just an issue. Relationships these days seem to lack intimacy. We lack intimacy in a lot of ways. And of course, if you are interested in information like this, you can subscribe to Move Your Life at YouTube. That's Move Your Life at YouTube. Well, I'm still challenging men in the area of marriage, manhood, money, relationships, and so much more. So I'm going to start off like I start off every episode about intimacy. Again, I have to remind people that the word intimacy comes from the Latin word intimus, which means inner. So when I speak about intimacy, I'm talking about how a man can get his insides to the outside, or how he connects the inside of himself with this external world, how he connects the inside of himself with his wife, or the inside of himself with his family, with his friends, or whoever he's trying to have an intimate relationship. But I'm going to specifically speak from the wife perspective. Well, not speak from the wife perspective, but how you emotionally invest into a woman. Now, this is going to apply to children too, but I want to talk about this because I want us to understand that coming home on time, just doing the things we're supposed to do, checking those boxes, that does not necessarily build intimacy. Just because you're in a place with the woman doesn't mean that time is quality. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he was telling me how him and his frat brothers went out, and a lot of them appear to have wives or partners or whatever that are insecure about their relationships. Meaning, when they're out, these women aren't secure. They're lacking trust in them. And it just sparked a whole conversation about intimacy. So I'm going to talk about emotionally investing in relationships. Okay. Now, first, I want you to understand that the word invest in the Latin, the word invest, a lot of you don't think of it this way, but the word vest means to clothe. So when we're talking about investments, we're talking about clothing something inside of something. So when you want to invest your money, you want to clothe yourself in your money. You want to clothe yourself in your money so that you can be rich. So an investment is to clothe something in something. Okay? So you want to be rich, you clothe yourself in your money. That's an investment. So when I start talking about emotional investment, how do you emotionally invest into a relationship? I am specifically talking about clothing your relationship in emotions, or clothing it in your emotions, or clothing it in such a manner where the person you're with feels secure when they're with you. Your emotions are actually being invested into the other person. And I'm going to elaborate on that later. So, when I'm talking about emotionally investing into a relationship, I am talking about investing your inside into your relationship, investing your inside ideas to your relationship, your thoughts to your relationship, your emotion to your relationship, your words to your relationship, your actions to your relationship, your heart to your relationship, your motivations and your intentions to your relationship, so that your relationship is clothed in your emotions, it's dressed in your heart, it is dressed in your intentions. It is dressed in your desires. It is dressed in your motivations. So in emotional investment is how Adam walked, like I talked about in the last episode. He walked in the highest form of intimacy because he connected his thoughts to her, his heart to her, his body to her, his intentions to her, his unctions to her. So then when she ate the apple, two became one, or the fruit, whatever it was, and he ate with her because he walked in the highest level of intimacy. So if we want to be emotionally invested, we have to take our insides and clothe our relationship in our insides so that we build a bridge to that woman. I think y'all with me right now. So I'm about to chop it about this intimacy. Now, even in the natural world, securities are stocks and bonds and monies that we put away so that we have financial security. Excuse me. It's stocks and bonds that we put to the side so we have emotional security. So we put our money in these investments so that they will be secure and they will secure our futures. So when I'm talking about relationship security that results from emotional intimacy. So when I put my mind, I put my heart, I put my intentions, I put my motivations, I put my desires into my relationship, I'm building up securities or I'm building up security in my relationship, not just for myself, but also for the person I am with. Do y'all hear me? So when I go into this relationship, it's transactional. So if I've invested my emotions, I've invested my time, I've invested my heart, I've invested my desires, then when I go get a deposit, I'm going to get something back, right? So, like when you put money in stocks and you let it grow, you're going to get something back. And actually, when you do real estate, appreciation is when the value of something goes up. I'm going to say it again. Appreciation is when the value of something goes up. So, when I get used to showing my spouse or showing my wife appreciation, by investing my words, investing my compliments, investing my etiquette, investing my motivation, investing my desires, investing my true feelings, and investing my heart. What I am doing is I am appreciating her or I am increasing her value. You get me? It is my job as a man to establish emotional intimacy so that when I connect my insides with her insides, she's appreciated or I start to increase her value. So if I start to increase her value or I increase the amount of securities or security in her that I have invested, as I start to appreciate her and increase her value, she will always feel more valuable than the women she's worried about me cheating on her with. Or she's going to know that I've deposited so much in her that she's not worried about some other woman looking more expensive or looking more tantalizing because I have built up value here and she knows it. So she doesn't question her value in comparison to people outside of my house. Do y'all feel me on that? So now let me talk to you guys about how to do this. Because, man, I told you, intimacy is about skill. The issue a lot of us have is we don't have any skill to build intimacy. We think it's just spin game. You think because you show up on time every day, man, that's reasonable things you should do. Of course you should come home, you married. Of course, you should be accountable. And when you're going to be late, you tell her because you're married. You shouldn't get credit for things like that. There are things that you just do because you're accountable and you're married. But this stuff right here, we have to learn how to emotionally invest so we can build up our portfolio of emotional securities or emotional security. Are y'all with me? We want to clothe our relationships in intimacy. We want to clothe our relationships in securities. So I'm about to chop this up right here. Here's three words you need to remember. You can instruct, you can construct, and you can destruct in a relationship. Okay? That's instruct, construct, and destruct. Now, what you got to know first is the word struct, struct. That means to build. So, when we're talking about intimacy, remember, we were talking about building a bridge from my inside to her inside. So, that's struct. That's to build. That's where you get the word structure. So, as a man, I am building a structure of intimacy. I am building a foundation of intimacy. I am building a framework of intimacy. This is pretty good, y'all. I hope y'all listen to this. So that's structure. So you want to build a structure of intimacy, a structure of emotional investment, so that the structure is clothed in emotional intimacy or things that build security or securities. So that when you go take something out that account, it's something there and you haven't bankrupted the woman you're with. Now, watch this: instruct, construct, and destruct. So, instruct means to build in something. Okay. I'm going to do this real quick. That instruct means to build in. The word in means inside, struck means to build. So instruct means to build inside. That's why when you instruct someone, you're building up a body of knowledge in them to create competence. It's like a brick. Once I show you what vowels are, once I teach you what syllables are, once I teach you what a letter is, what a syllable is, what a word is, now you can go from words to phrases, from phrases to sentences, from sentences to paragraphs, from paragraphs to short essays, from short essays to whole novels. Meaning, I've instructed or I've built knowledge in you so that you can increase your competence and your value at doing something. Do y'all feel me? That's instruct. Now, construct, the word con means with. The word struct means to build. So that's to build with someone. You feel me? This gonna make sense, especially if you watch the last podcast. So construct means to build with. Con is with, struct is to build. That's to build with. And then you got destruct. That means to separate. So whatever you built, you separate it or you tear it down. That's destruct. Instruct, build in. Construct, build with. Destruct, to tear down. You're no longer building. You're messing up the structure. So when I talk about emotionally investing, these are the three words that you need to know: instruct, construct, and destruct. Yes, this is something I came up with. I am a counselor myself, but I'm also born again, and I believe God gives me wisdom about relationships. That's why you see coach, because I can coach relationships. Now, watch this. In my previous podcast, there are three ways you can communicate: you can talk to, you can talk with, or you can talk at. Say it again. You can talk to, you can talk with, or you can talk at. So, what I'm talking about are your words here. I'm going to kind of incorporate touch, but remember, whenever you start dealing with touch, if your words don't touch right, your hands won't touch right. Meaning your hands can only say what your words have previously stated, or your hands can only navigate within the structure that your words have already established. So when we're talking about strategies on how to build intimacy, here's the first one. Okay? At. The word at goes with the word destruct. Now, when you can talk to, you can talk with, you can talk at. When you talk at, you're usually angry. You're usually creating a wall between you and the one you love. And you're creating that wall because you're angry. Remember, we default to anger as men. And you're talking at them because you're probably sad about something or afraid of something. But since we power up, we're angry. Now we're talking at them. And whatever structure we had previously built up, if that structure is not strong enough, when we start talking at our women, we start to tear that structure down. We start to tear it down pillar by pillar by pillar. All the good stuff you said in the past can be ruined by one thing you say the wrong way. I'm going to say it again. All the goodwill you build up in a relationship, every pillar, every brick can be torn down by saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong things. That's destructive. So when you talk at someone, you're tearing your structure down. You're not doing yourself any favor. So people with anger problems, or men who always have an axe to grind, or you want to be angry about every single thing, you're always commanding her around, you're always making demands. I promise you, you're destroying your relationship, or it's destructing because you're self destructing it. You're tearing it down with your mouth, which means that when you touch it with your hands, you're also tearing your relationship down. Remember, your hands say what your mouth says. Now, if your mouth is saying the right things, your hands can say things you never imagined because your mouth is saying it the right way. But when you talk at, you destroy your relationship. Okay. Now let's go talking with. Now remember, I told you guys talking with. The word construct means to build with. So in your relationship, when you talk with your wife, you say, we got to pay bills. That's goal oriented because you want to do something with her. Or how are we going to raise these kids? You're doing something with her, meaning that when you have communication in your relationship about with, you're building with her. Whenever you're doing something with her, there's an end goal. It could be paying a bill, it could be setting a goal, it could be cooking a dinner, meaning there's always a goal at the end of it that you two have to talk about or come together and do together because you have to do it with her and she has to do it with you. That's construct. Now, it is constructive because you're building something together. You're building a life. You're building a family. You're building a legacy. But these are things usually that can be measured. You can measure your goal, whether you accomplish it or not. You guys can measure whether you're raising your children well or not. You guys can measure how much money comes into your house and how much goes out. You can measure how much time you have, meaning with is very goal oriented. That's where the word helpmeet comes in, where the woman is called to be a helpmeet to the man. But the Bible also says submit one to another. So in a way, a man also is a helpmeet to a woman. So you guys are coming together to take care of business. You're coming together to build a future. So that's building with. So when you're talking with your wife, you're building with her. So when you're talking at her, you're destroying your relationship. You're creating a wall. You're tearing up the structure. When you are talking with her, you are constructing something with her, meaning you guys are building something together. You're creating sort of a net of security, but it's more for your assets. It's more for your money. It's more for your children. It's more for the bottom line. There's always a goal that you talk with her about. Okay. I want you to keep this in mind because these are ways to invest. So when you are talking at them, you're taking away from your investment. You're tearing up the structure. When you're constructing with her, you are building an investment, but you're not building an emotional investment. When you're building with, you're being responsible. You are being a man. You are doing what you're supposed to do. You're taking care of your business. You're walking in your masculinity. You are setting those goals. You are establishing order because you are leading. You are building with. And you are saying, baby, come on, take my hand. We are partners in this marriage. We're partners in parenting. We're partners in the business of raising children. We're partners in accomplishing goals. We're partners in cleaning the house. We're partners in budgeting our time. We're partners in our financial portfolio. So you are building up some security, but this has more to do with business. This is more action and goal oriented. Okay. But when we say we talk to, this is the one that where you are creating an emotional investment. Look, business partners talk with each other. Okay. Teammates talk with each other. Okay. But when you talk to your wife or you instruct, what you are doing is you are literally putting something in her that's going to stay there. So I say, I love you. You are so beautiful. That's a brick. Baby, you are so talented. That's a brick. But these are bricks that you're stacking in her just because you're talking to her. You're not sitting with her talking to the bills. You guys go out for ice cream and y'all just shooting. Y'all just shooting and y'all shooting the breeze. Y'all just talking. Y'all just building with each other, meaning you're instructing each other. You're just talking to her for the sake of you love her. You're so beautiful. Oh my God, I've been with you for a long time. Man, did you like that movie? Man, do you still like politics? You guys are just talking to each other. And what you're doing is You're actually putting something in them. You're not doing something with them. You're not tearing something down. You're actually building something in them. So every time you give a compliment, every time you give a wink of an eye, every time you flirt, every time you go on a date and you just talk, you're not talking about the business of the house. You're playful. You're in the spirit of being playful. You're in the spirit of being romantic. You're in the spirit of just being friends and laughing and maybe putting a few back. Maybe y'all drinking. Maybe y'all went to the movies. Y'all like the movie. Now you're just talking about the movie. Meaning when you talk to your wife and she talks to you, it's not goal oriented. You're just talking to her for the sake of loving her. You're with her for the sake of holding her. You're talking to her for the sake of spending time with her, meaning this is quality time. You are fully present. You have no goals. You have no expectations. You have no requirements. You have no questions. You have no demands. You're specifically with her just because you want to spend time. You are emotionally investing inside of this woman without expectations, without goals, without demanding something, without talking about business. You guys are with each other only for each other. You're on a date because you want to spend time. You're watching a movie because you want to spend time. You go for a walk because you want to spend time. You're having a conversation because you want to spend time. These are the types of things that build intimacy in your relationship. Emotional intimacy. See, when you're talking to, you're instructing or you're building love in brick by brick by brick by brick. And every time you put a brick in, she appreciates. Every time you put a brick in, she appreciates. Every time you put a brick in, she appreciates. And what you're doing is you're increasing her value because you're building something in her, because you're taking your inside and placing it in her. You're taking your inside and you're placing it in her. You're taking your inside and you're placing it in her. The compliment that comes out of here, you're putting it in her. The thought that comes out of here, you're putting it in her. And that is how we build emotional intimacy because we're emotionally investing. There's a transaction that comes out of Mikhail and goes into his wife. Just like the way children are made. The way children are made, you literally have to go inside of a woman. You have to plant seed in her, and then 9 months later, you get a product from that seed. That's the type of intimacy I'm talking about. But to, with, and at are different. When you're talking with, that's business. Those are things that you have to take care of. Now, I like to believe you have a choice in doing it, but you don't really have a choice but to pay your mortgage. I mean, you have a choice, but you guys are going to talk about how to pay that mortgage, right? The problem is when we get in these relationships and we talking about emotional investment, or we're talking about investing in relationships, we're so busy trying to be a provider that we're not emotionally investing. We're trying to be the business partner. We're trying to make sure things are taken care of, but we're not actually emotionally invested into our women. We're not present. Just because you're with them does not mean that you're investing in them. Being with them and investing in them are not the same, people. Remember, you have two, that's instruct, with, that's construct, at, that's destruct. And we have to spend more time with the two. Believe me, at some time in a relationship, the with and the construct, that gets old. Because when you're just talking with and you're constructing, you do that stuff with people you're not in a relationship with. Shoot, you do that with people at work. You do that with the banker. You do that with a business partner. You do that with your staff. You're always talking with them to get a result. But when you're talking to your spouse, you're not trying to get a result. You're investing yourself in them. And that's what we have to learn how to do, man. We have to learn how to take our insides and place it in them. So when we're talking about women who are insecure, I want y'all to think about this. We always accuse women of being insecure. Oh, they don't trust me. You know what I'm saying? They always think I'm cheating on them, whatever. Ask yourself this question. Have you actually built something in them? Huh? Have you appreciated them? Have you increased their value with your mouth? Have you increased their value with just because gifts that are cheap? I ain't talking about going to buy somebody a Porsche. I'm talking about, did you handwrite a card? Did you get a poem? Did you see something? Did you do something cute for her? Did you tell her she was sexy? Did you tell her you love her? Do you go for walks with her? Do you go for talks with her? Are you just doing stuff for her just because? Meaning you're talking to her, huh? Or is it always a reason? You're talking with her so you can get some. You're talking with her so you can take care of the bills. You're talking with her to make sure she's doing what she's supposed to do for the kids. You're talking with her about grocery lists. And in some of our relationships, shoot, we ain't even doing that. We don't even talk with her about things. In a lot of relationships, a man either does all of that himself or he leaves it all to the woman to do, right? Which that doesn't work either. So when I say invest in a relationship, man, I don't care how much money you spend. I don't care if you coming home on time. I'm gonna tell you this, dude. You better build in her. You better increase her value. That is your job, to connect your inside like Adam did with her inside. Instruct. Meaning I'm taking something in me, pulling it out and putting it in her, just like you do with seed when you get her pregnant. Here's the compliment. You're talking to her. You're on a date to her. You just laughing with her to her. You cracking jokes on her to her. You give another compliment to her. You just talking about y'all wonderful life to her. The sky's blue. It's sunny today, baby, baby. I love you to her, in her, in her, to in. Remember that, to in. You have to stop spending most of your time in your relationship either with her, trying to solve problems, or talking at her because you can't get them resolved. You have to be intentional about your time. Set aside some to time, right? Because I guarantee you, she's trying to set aside with time because she's trying to build that house. She's trying to make sure things go well with the kids, bills are paid, needs are met. She's making sure she's talking with you all the time. And we have to keep that job to make sure we build up emotional intimacy in our relationships. So, destruct. That means you talking Adam. You're angry all the time. You're destroying the structure of your relationships, dudes. Stop it, bro. You can't always talk at her. Figure out a way to connect with her that you're not at. So, when you're at her, you're not connecting. That's destructive. When you're talking with her, that's constructive. You're building with, but you're not necessarily connecting with her. You're connecting with the goal you and her are trying to accomplish. But when you talk to her, the only purpose of that communication is to connect with her. I hope y'all with me, fellas. I bless this mic because I got something to say. I rock these headphones because I'm listening twice as much as I talk. This has been the Blue Room. I hope y'all enjoying these nuggets on intimacy. I'm telling y'all, we gonna chop it up. Take my word for it. Build emotional intimacy and security or securities in your relationship. So not only are you with them, but you build a relationship that's wonderful and lovely. And if you are interested in content like this, subscribe to Move Your Life on YouTube. Move Your Life on YouTube. I'm telling y'all, I'm going to become a relationship resource, y'all. Again, I bless the mic because I got something to say. I rock headphones because I'm listening twice as much as I talk, y'all. And it's the idea shifter. And I'm definitely signing out.